Hey everybody, it's me, Super Paul Games, and welcome back to Seduce Me, the Otome. If you remember last time, the succubus Diana showed up, and she threatened to take our boys away, or make our friends not be friends with us anymore.
She'll be back, but she won't kill us. She needs us alive.
Does she need me, like alive too, because I like being alive?
Whatever. We'll just keep saying no. She can't force us to come back.
That's right, Cookie Monster.
She can't do anything but annoy us. Eventually, she'll give up.
That's the hope, anyway.
Hopefully. Like, Eric, you're not building my confidence at all with that attitude. James walked over to me and gently caressed my cheek. Boy, I've got something else you can caress. Haha. Looking at me with a comforting smile.
There's no need to worry. I promise she won't hurt you.
I wasn't worried, James. I fought a devil by myself, thank you. I nodded, feeling that he was telling the truth, or at least a hopeful and comforting thought. James kissed my forehead. Oh boy kiss. However, making me blush and forget what I was thinking about. The sound of collective chuckles and playful snickers whispered through the air, making me blush even more. But the sudden growl that erupted from the man above me made the laughter stop. Who's that? I didn't see James' face, but I could tell that he was glaring at his brothers with his lips on my head. He's like anger kiss. He and I pulled away from each other just as the sound of Naomi's car appeared. I quickly ate my food, waved to the boys, and left, confident that nothing was going to happen. Well, that means we're good, right? Game over? Never ever say that nothing will happen before the day is over. I avoided talking about the ride. Oh, I'll let James ride me back home yesterday, saying that the ride was a one-time thing. I'll be like riding with you guys from now on to school and back from it. The girls seemed very happy. We entered the class of the school, quickly gathered our things from our lockers, and headed to class. How about headed to ass? I like that. There were no events to our surprise. History wasn't exactly fun, but our teacher was great. At least he would have been great if he was in class that day. Fucking gold bricker. Naomi and Suzu took their seats around me. Suzu in front of me, Naomi beside me. Oh, I thought she was going to be behind me and could form a train gangbang. Before the class bell rang, and the class was greeted by the dean.
Students, you'll be having a substitute for class today. Everyone meet.
The dean sounds like she's going to cry. She's like, substitute, I hate my job.
Miss Diana.
Oh, that'll be nice. That can't be the succubus Diana. Oh no, it is! My heart stopped. At the door with the dean was Diana, looking over the students and smirking as her eyes landed on me. Well, you're just kind of like a barroom slut or a ballroom dancer to be a sub. She strutted. You know what? My experience with subs in school is we were always horrible to them. Absolutely horrible. So I would think Diana didn't realize that she's setting herself up to be treated horribly by the entire class. She strutted to the teacher's desk, ignoring or welcoming the whispers from the other students before sitting on the wood and crossing her legs.
Thank you, Dean. You can go now.
My name's not Dean. Oh, you mean the dean of the school. With a wave of Diana's hand, the dean left the classroom, closed the door, and left the area. Diana smiled at us, making our stomachs, well, my stomach turn. What was she going to do? I bet she's going to give me a ton of homework. Then I won't have time to hang out with my friends anymore.
So, history. History. Such a silly thing, isn't it? I mean, what do we care about the past? We're in the present.
Does that mean we don't have homework, teacher? The rest of the class, including Naomi and Suzu, hesitantly nodded in agreement, unsure about this new teacher, but willing to listen to more of what she had to say. I think Suzu would agree. I think Naomi would be like, but I like doing history, homework, and stuff. And I think the boys would be like, fappida.
The present is so full of wonderful things. While the labors of the past are the reason we have many things, it is our chance and privilege to utilize what has been given to us.
Boring. Bring in a new teacher. Her charm was almost infectious. The class was practically starting to eat out of her hand. That's not all some of the boys want to eat from her. I looked around to see classmates grinning and agreeing with Diana. They're probably like, wow, this teacher's so much hotter. She's got way more boobs than old Mr. Olderson did. I pressed my lips together as I listened further. I had no choice.
What's even funnier about human beings is that some of the bits of history we hear is either made up or completely biased to one side. It's like a story you read as a child.
That's how stories are, dude. You tell them from your perspective.
You hear of the princess and the prince, and they live happily ever after. But what about the family she left behind? What of her friends?
Diana, I think you've confused history with fairy tales. The students listened and agreed intently to their words, because they're fucking morons. I could tell, however, that these words were all targeted at me.
The original story of the Little Mermaid, a perfect example of biased opinion. Here we have a girl who thinks she can be with this prince, but this prince has to marry a princess.
Diana, do you know what history is? Like, is this all going to be Disney films?
What would happen if the mermaid had her way? What makes the mermaid so important that the princess has to suffer the consequences?
Why would I don't care. I'm gonna keep quiet. I kept my mouth shut. There's no way I was going to let her get to me. Despite her being the teacher, I was going to ignore her. Just, there's no telling what she could do if I talked back. It's school. If you're like me, you can drop flux capacitors and stickmen on your notebook and not pay very good attention. Diana looked at me, expecting me to speak. Ha ha! But I merely stared at her. A smirk graced her face, a glare graced mine. I didn't need a fight to win.
It's still something to think about, however, as we think of this story. It's so easy to believe that the mermaid was the heroine. But what of the poor princess? Why should the princess suffer the antics of a mermaid? The princess didn't do anything wrong to her.
Did I still point out, Diana, that this isn't real history? Hans Christian Andersen kind of made that story up. More nonsense! I knew this was all a subliminal message to me to make me pity her. My anger didn't allow any leeway to feel pity for her. How long was she planning to drag this out? She wasn't a real teacher at all. Diana continued to rave about the injustice the princess had to suffer through while the mermaid was in the prince's sight. To Diana, it was injustice. To me, it was a fairy tale. The boys chose me. He chose me. She wasn't going to convince them otherwise. I wasn't going to let her. Sorry, Diana, but I got a tight rockin' bod, and you're nasty. Diana stretched her arms up, and making an obvious sexual noise that made some of the boys in the class shift in their seats. I rolled my eyes.
Well, that's enough about fairy tales. After all, the Little Mermaid was fated to lose her prince in the original story anyway. It was for the better, though. The kingdoms, I'm sure, flourished, and the prince and princess lived happily ever after.
I think Fatty Vag should do the back. The same in response. The same, noise, and just let it be a constant escalating moan war until some other teacher walks by and is like, what the fuck is going on in here? Yeah, how can you be so sure? It's a made-up story. Finally, I spoke up. I felt ballsy enough to challenge her at last. The other students in the class, including Suzu and Naomi, turned to look at me, both in shock and confusion. Diana looked over and smiled kindly.
Because I have a hunch.
Excuse me, Diana? I have a hunch. It's not scientific method. What if the prince was incredibly, unhappy? Could the princess live with herself knowing that the man she married was unhappy? Oh, burn!
In that case, the prince and princess's senses of duty would overrule emotion. Their kingdoms would flourish nevertheless, making their people love them and live happy lives.
You said duty. Another excuse. She wasn't answering my question. So, what if the prince is supposed to suffer a marriage he doesn't want for the sake of, his kingdom?
It happens all the time in reality. Arranged marriages happen to bring families together and bring wealth out of poverty.
Where does it happen all the time? In India 200 years ago? Because that's not where we live, Diana. That, doesn't make it right. The other students applauded me, knowing that what I was saying was right. Diana pressed her lips into a thin line of irritation, signaling my victory. Ha ha ha! You have been destroyed by a child. Diana then stopped talking and began to look at the clock on the wall. That's what I did mostly in school, too, look at the clock on the wall. I didn't wear stuff like that to school. Reading it quickly, the class had barely begun. Why was she looking at the time? You didn't prepare a very good lesson plan, did you, Diana? You just wanted to talk about Disney films. Diana then leaned against the blackboard and smiled to us. I became worried.
You know what? School isn't important. Everyone, go ahead and head home. Take the week off.
Okay. If I was in her class, I would have, and I wouldn't show up for a week. I'd be like, teacher told me. The students suddenly began to chat happily, or in confusion of the situation. Many thought it was a dream come true. Others knew better. Before anyone could protest, however, Diana pressed a finger to her lips and counted with her fingers in the air. 3, 2, 1. The speakers of the classroom gently awoke, giving us an announcement. Oh, the speakers, as in the announcement speakers. I thought you meant people coming in and talking. Giving us an announcement we would never believe.
Attention students. Due to an emergency faculty meeting, we will be closing school for the remainder of the day and this entire week. Please leave the school quickly and quietly and have a good rest of the week.
Dean, did Diana kill your husband or something? That's why you're sad and you're closing the school? She used her powers on them. Damn it! I felt the need to stop her, but how could I stop a demon in the middle of a public area? Diana smiled before gesturing to the door.
Have a nice week off. School will resume next week.
I think that's awesome. I'd be like, thanks, Diana. I'm going to go hang out with Suzu, Naomi, and the boys. Many of the students filed out, chatting to each other about the new impromptu plans. Suzu was beyond happy. That would have been like me. But Naomi was hesitant. Get it together, Naomi. Before we could pack up and leave, however, Diana stepped to us. How about you step off, girl?
Excuse me, little miss. I'd like you to stay a little while. There's something we need to discuss.
You're the motherfucking sub. I don't have to stay to talk to a motherfucking sub when we have the school off for a week. You can get wrecked, fatty tits. As Diana looked at Suzu and Naomi, she snapped her fingers, making my friends tense up.
You two can head home. Don't worry about your friend until next week, okay? If you contact her, she won't reply, so don't bother. If she contacts you, ignore her, because she's just fine.
As if on command, Suzu and Naomi left the room. I tried to march after them, but Diana stepped in my path, warning me with her eyes that if I followed, there would be hell to pay. I had lost my two friends, at least for the week. Diana and I were alone, just like she wanted. Look, I'm not gonna get all lesbo on you, girl. I slammed my hands on the desk in front of me and glared at Diana. Look, I can shove, like, purple ice shards in you. I learned that from my grandpa, so you better watch out. What are you doing? And, like, what are you thinking?
What? Do I not make a good teacher? I figured you should have a little lesson, so I took matters into my own hands.
I bet some of the boys wanted to be in your hands. Whatever you're doing, it's not gonna work, okay?
You really think so, dear? And what makes you so sure about that?
What was making me so sure? Why was I confident? Were the boys worth this? My thoughts began to fill with doubt. All the uncertainties about this whole ordeal began to cloud my mind. If the boys were ever found out, there'd be hell to pay. Was it worth it? What about Diana? What would she do to me? Would she make my parents forget about me completely? Would she ruin my friends' lives out of spite? In my gut, I felt a stone of confidence try to fight back, but the heaviness of my thoughts began to dissolve that stone little by little. What was going on with me? I looked up to Diana once again to see her gaze boring into my eyes. She's using her succubus powers on you to break down your will, like a girlfriend. She was using her powers on me. This time I was away from home, so I couldn't escape. Or could I? Did I want to? The way she stared at me made me feel warm and fuzzy in my chest. I felt like I was melting. Wait, can I hook up with her too? Diana lifted a hand under my chin and ran her thumb over my lips, licking her own. I could feel little shots of energy zipping from under my skin into my chin where she held me.
Now, let's have a little taste of that sweet, virginal sexual energy.
What? No, girl, I like James. Lesbian times. I watched as she leaned in, ready to kiss me and take my energy. Half of my body felt elation at the idea. The other half completely rejected it and didn't want her to even touch me. I like James. No, say his real name. Ruff the Fardo. Suddenly, Diana stopped in her tracks.
James, who is...
Then it dawned on her.
Ah, one of the boys. Why don't you tell me which boy is James?
Yo, mama. I felt myself not in compliance. Oh, man, just say Sam. Or Eric. It's like the oldest. Diana giggled in reply before letting go of my face and stepping back.
Really? the eldest son with you.
What's wrong with the eldest? I'm the eldest in real life. It's awesome, Diana. Suck a dick. I nodded again, but this time it was partly my own decision to reply. Diana let out a sound that mimicked a cat's purr before stepping away from me.
All right, then. Well, if it's the eldest son you're infatuated with, you should really rethink your romantic options.
Diana, I think you would say that no matter what. What's wrong with James? Diana chuckled before kissing my nose, where I felt a shot of energy zap out of my body, like a fart, almost making me dizzy and recoil. Diana then turned to the desk and sat on the wood, crossing her legs. Diana, you can sit on my wood.
You can go now. Remember, no class for the rest of the week.
Yeah, don't worry, Diana. It's not like I was going to show up tomorrow when nobody else is. How am I, supposed to get home? My 2 friends left me here thanks to you.
Oh, were they your ride? My apologies. Let me help, then.
At this point, as much as our parents are dickweeds, I think we should call our parents up. Diana lifted her hand and snapped her fingers. I suddenly felt the floor sink from underneath me, forcing me to look down at her vagina. What? I mean, look down. A purple pentagram surrounded my feet, pulling me into the ground. Oh, no! Like, whoa, and shit. Before I could fight, however, I sank fully to the floor, fading into darkness, and shutting my eyes. As I opened them, I felt my silk sheets around me, soothing my anxiety from the darkness that had previously surrounded me. Like, what the? She should teach me that. I want to have an instant portal so I can fly around. What did Diana bring? Why did Diana bring me home? Was this an illusion? Is this real life, or is this just a fantasy? Was I being tricked? Something was going on. I sat in my bed looking around me. I was indeed in my room. There was no mistake about that, but why? Diana, what? All that reading gets me confused at times. Like Diana is too strange. Was this a game? Was this part of our plan to get the boys back? I was lost and confused, more than ever, despite my logical thought trying to piece the puzzle that is Diana together. The more I tried to solve her, the less I understood about the situation I was in. I was interrupted, however, by my door suddenly opening, revealing the boys with Damien's hand on the doorknob.
Miss, what are you doing here?
Why are you in my bedroom? Then, if you didn't know I was here, why are you all in my bedroom?
Aren't you supposed to be in school?
I furrowed my eyebrows and stared at Damien, asking him to answer their questions with my thoughts.
Diana sent her back here. She invaded her school and sent all the students back home.
What is that bitch up to? Seriously! Diana's playing around for no reason.
Maybe it's part of her plan.
The boys continued to argue back and forth about Diana, fueling an almost jealous curiosity in me. What? What? That's such a girl thing we're doing. Quit talking about Diana so much. Why don't we talk about me some more? Damien seemed to be too deep within the talking to notice my thoughts, for he didn't even stop talking alongside his brothers to notice me. Why was Diana after them? Why did she want to bring them back? What was so important about the boys that she would travel to the human world to get them? Well, I think she explained it in her Little Mermaid analogy that she wants to marry one of them and be a queen or some shit. What was going on? I decided enough was enough. I needed answers. Hey! The boys stopped arguing, staring at me in surprise. I held my hands in fists on my lap, mustering the courage to continue to speak despite my abrupt shout. Why is Diana here? Why does she want to bring you all back? What exactly did you all run from? Why did you run from it?
Miss,
Don't miss me. Please, I need to know, what's going on. I won't be left in the dark about this. I want to know, what I'm facing, who my competition is. Do you think she's prettier than me? The boys looked at each other hesitantly, unsure of what to reply. Finally, Sam pushed Damien towards the bed. Ooh, are they going to make out? Because they're brothers. I don't want to see that. Making him buckle and land on his knees with his torso over the edge of the mattress.
Damien, do the thing.
Oh, God. The thing? What thing?
Sam, you're not suggesting.
Why not? She deserves to know everything, especially if Diana is targeting her.
You deserve some points with me, Sam.
Sam's right.
I guess we have no choice then.
I was getting confused. What was Damien about to do? You're not about to butt sex each other, are you? Because I'm really confused. Damien stood before climbing under the bed with me, sitting across from me on his knees.
We're going to show you everything. You have to trust me, okay? The minute you stop trusting me, the vision will stop.
Oh, okay. Good. Alright, so he's going to show us a vision, maybe of their world and what Diana wants? I think we're going to end it on a cliffhanger here. So next time, we'll see the vision they try and put into our mind. Hopefully it's not Little Mermaid 2. Hopefully these guys aren't just focused on Disney films or old stories that became Disney films. We're going to sit down there and he's going to put like a vision in our mind. It's going to be like Chippendale Rescue Rangers. I'm going to be like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you all hopefully in the next episode.